Hello, chaps and chapesses. Just going to, I've had a couple of requests about, or questions about Euro USD over the last week. Um, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a recording just to try and break down where I think it's going overall and see if I can get some idea without all my drawings on. So I'm going to pick another feed and um, see if we can do it from a blank chart. So my previous drawings and things don't confuse everything. Um, Forex.com, starting the weekly. Forex.com and it goes back to 2006. Percentage 212. Shit. What's that feed? Nice. Season. T. Try advantage. Yeah, it's good enough. Advantage is good enough. So obviously, as you can see, I'm on the weekly. Now, what I'll do is I'm just gonna sort of like this is unplanned, so I'm just gonna draw it as I see it and try explain it as I'm kind of going um as best I can. Hopefully, it makes a lot of sense, you know. Um, so this is what I would class as the higher time frame, but probably weekly, daily, something like that, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. It's the highest time frame structure I can see. As you see, it's majorly well, it's bullish. That this means that this here is the current live leg there because the high and the low are still intact. So that's the low. Hasn't been taken. High hasn't been taken, so we're in the middle of this leg at the minute. It looks like we've come down quite deep into it, into this leg here. So obviously if it's going to make a new higher high, so obviously this might well be the low, I don't know. If we look at the rest of this, obviously the lows are being kept. Yeah, so this might be the low. Kind of anticipate it. A lower time frame break to the upside would kind of confirm it. I'll get to that structure in a minute, but that's possibly the next move. Hasn't happened yet though, so it's all uh guessing work at the minute. The important point is that this is a high, this is a low, this is the current structure as I sort of see it. And that's the live range. So now that we've got that, what we can kind of do is we can use tools to decide where we are best to maybe trade from. So this is just I think it's called the GAN box. Yeah, GAN box. I've got my settings to just do the 25, basically into four. So each section is 25%. And if you drag it from the high to the low or low to the high, whatever you want to say. Obviously, the top and bottom green box are the extreme 25%. The middle section is the 50% in the middle, but obviously it's two 25%. So literally all I've done is dragged it from the bottom to that low to the high. And as you can see, after the high, price has come back and it's come back into this bottom 25%. Now, on a bullish structure, bottom 25% is kind of like the best areas that you'd maybe be taking buys from. Now, I don't know what it's obviously I've just opened this up, so I don't know what it's done previously, but I'll check the other swings. So from that high, that low to that high, let's drag it across. You can see it hits about bottom 90% pullback. Same on the next leg, low to the high, just short of 75%, but it's only a guide, so it's not always going to hit there. And then obviously on the current leg that it's in, like I say, it's hit the bottom, pulled back to the bottom 25%, probably 80-ish with that there. So What that means is we can when this obviously enters this bottom 25%, so I've deleted the box. I'll just draw another box on it for the sake of it. I think it was about there, maybe a bit more about like that. That's maybe the bottom 25%. It's tapped into it, and then what we would kind of like to see if we're going to take this high is like on the now obviously this structure is the highest time frame structure I can see. So what we would then do to sort of like decide if we want to be serious about take major buys to obviously take the high, we can use lower time frame structures as well to confirm. So just as here right now, if price takes this high there, then and would look something like this. So from there, if it does this, yeah, that's a confirmation that we are the time frame below this one, the purple one, is showing signs that it's possibly going to start taking highs. So what I'll do is I'll move on to the next structure that I see. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to now I don't know if I say this often, but when I draw my structures on the current leg, so I'm only focusing on this sort of area here. I'm not bothered about all this sort of stuff to the left here because it's inside this leg that I'm kind of looking for. And everything else is a little bit irrelevant now because of where we are. Now, I always do like to at least get the final bullish swing. Obviously, it would be the final bearish swing if it was the opposite way around. But I'm just, this high here, because obviously all this price action here is bullish. So I want the last swing on the time frame that I'm now looking for. So we've got a high pullback. We put in the overall high, and I'll change this because I know it's the same color at the minute. But so there's a couple of things going on here. You could maybe include these. It kind of doesn't meet the rule because I want this low taken, but it's such a high time frame. If you included this, I'd probably say it's about okay. But following the rules, it would kind of be there to there to there. I'll change that blue so it's different color. So the lads that follow me regularly will know that what after this structure we'll get to the 4 hour stuff, which 4 hour, 15 and 1, which will be red, orange, and green, which means that actually that's the high I would like to be taken. Now, the rules for structure are in the supply and demand in the pin section. So all of what I've just drawn here will meet my criteria for structure. So obviously this is on the blue leg, for an example. The reason why I've gone all the way down here is because this is the low that put in the high. Yeah. Obviously, after it takes that point, there's no significant pullbacks in all this here above this high. So this is the low. And until that one gets taken, this is all technically internal. But we do get, like I say, we do get, if you just miss that last swing, we kind of get this going on as well. And then it jumps to that one anyway, because this low here, just zoom in a second. The reason why I've gone from that high straight down to here, because I won't class any of that as a pullback. This low here, highlight it, save it. This low here doesn't take this low there, so it doesn't take it, so that's internal. And then literally price, obviously it doesn't take the high either here, so this doesn't change the character in all this. Because it doesn't take the high, and then it eventually takes a low. And then one of the rules is the highest in a bearish situation. Obviously, for bullish, it'll be the lowest. This is the highest point price breaks. The highest point price pulls back before it then retakes the low. Yeah, so we get these structures are okay because they're done. The favourite point pulls back before it then retakes this low. What's in a low pulls back, then retakes the low down here. So this middle section here is all internal, kind of irrelevant, other than there'll be probably liquidity in it and things like that, but purely trying to focus on structure at the minute. So I'll just delete that last one because technically it would be this larger structure, but there is something going on there that maybe if it might give us some usage, I guess. So same again. If now we're getting to a sort of a point where we're on the highest time frame, so the purple structure, we are in the we are kind of like possibly seeing buys. Now I don't know if this is just going to continue lower. I don't know if the blue structure is going to stay bearish, obviously because this is bearish, so we've got a couple of swings. I've no idea if this is going to do that, right? It's no one knows really, It could do, it might not. But what I'd be more inclined is because the bigger structure is major, and we'll get what will happen in the next structure will kind of indicate which way I think it will go. So with the still being higher time frame, I'll write this down actually, Oh, so we can maybe keep an eye on it. And say this is off the cuff, guys. So if it's dog shit, I apologize. We'll call it weekly. Uh, can I get an arrow? Keyboard. Weekly up. No, not purple. Oh, I've got a down arrow in case I need a down. No. I'll just say up. Weekly up. Now, this I'll class as the daily. I know I'm still on the same time frame, but it's just so I can see more of the picture. Yeah, the important part is that you can see the structures, and you can see enough of them to identify the different sizes. So obviously this purple one's clearly bigger than this blue one because the blue's internal to the purple. Right, so weekly's up. Daily, so the blue, let me do another one. So the daily, I'll turn it blue so you can see all the structures line up with the structures drawn. Daily's down. Weekly up, daily down. So that's not ideal for obviously major buys because they're opposing each other kind of thing. One's going to win. We would always say generally the high is the higher the time frame, the more weight it holds. But like the daily will tell us what we think the weekly's doing before the daily does that, and then that will wait through the time frame. So the 4 hour will tell us what the daily is doing before the daily does it, and then the 15 will tell us that well they have 4 hours doing before it does it, and so on until you get down to like the lower time frames. Um, so this this hits the bottom 25%. So what we can do is we can start to see signals on what the structure in this will be doing. Okay, so sorry, just let me take a sip of my coffee. So this is the structure on this. So this is the high, this is the low on that structure. Drag it across. As you can see, price from this point here to that point there, that's obviously the structure as it stands. Price has since pulled back into the top 25% extreme of that time frame. So now what that would suggest to me is that this is a great area for possible sells. I'll turn that blue just so I'll turn this one purple so it's lines up with structures that I'm trying to show you. So yeah, price has retraced into the top 25% of this structure leg here. Yeah, as I've just drawn it, I'll just delete this low. And if we also look onto the structure inside of this leg now, so obviously I've come from the weekly, come down, zoomed in I've done the daily, and now I'm kind of looking at the 4 hour-ish So the time frame above below the daily. So what we've got, what I can sort of do is see. So with it this peak sort of area in this blue box. Now I'm staying on this time frame because I can sort of see it as I sort of need to. We get a bullish structure leading up to the point of interest here. So I'll just draw the last couple because it's so do it from there actually. I'd say something like this. Now this might not be perfect, but it's close enough. I'll turn this red in a minute. I think that one there takes the low. If not, I'll change it when I zoom in. Yeah. So and then 4 hour. I'll just zoom in just to make sure that the highs and lows got taken that I wanted. I'll turn on the magnet. Get all these stuck on the highs and lows. Obviously, you stick them on the highs and lows because that's what structure is. Purely highs and lows. Anything else is not relevant to structure. So that's that's the current low on the 4 hour, I believe. As long as I got got it right. But as we can see, price taps into that top 25%. This is the low that puts in that high. Yeah. So, and as we can see, it gets taken here, and so we get a change. I'll call it change of character because that's technically what it should be called. So we get a 4 hour change of character there. I'll turn that red so, like I say, it matches up with the time frame it's on. Okay, so we've had a 4 hour change of character. I'm going to start dropping down the time frames now so we can start to see that what's going on. Let me just come back up to because the 4 hours changed bearish, so all these swings up here are bullish. Putting a low, putting the overall high, possible overall high, take the low. So at this point here, the 4 hours also turned bearish. So that's weekly. Weekly would be bearish. Daily's no, weekly's bullish. Daily bearish. 4 hour now just turned bearish. Okay. Uh, there, 4 hour bearish. And turn that red. So you see the time frames. Okay. Now another thing is when something changes. So this 4 hours turned bearish here, as you can see. I'm not quite zoomed in, but what that kind of means is that because it's now lining up with the time frame above, there's a good chance, right, that this is the actual new lower high on the blue structure on the daily. Yeah, because we've shown signals in here on the time frame below the blue one, so the red's below the blue. It's pretty much told us that it's turning round. It's not taking the high. It's from a prime area to sell from. So there's a good chance now that that is going to be the new structure. A good chance. Now it's not guaranteed, okay, but it's a signal. It's kind of telling us. Now it's just a case of whether it does it or not is would be up to fate, I guess, you know. So now what we can do is is we've taken the low. We've had a now if we just focus on the, this structure here, so bear with me a second while I get things zoomed in. Now I don't think this has pulled back 75%. Obviously the 75% is just a guide, but if that's the low and I pull that across to here, so from that high to this low here, because that's the low that I've drawn. Now drag it across. Oh, do that. We can see that price hasn't pulled back 75%. It's now obviously, as I said earlier, the top 25% is ideal. It's not always going to be the case. So what it's just a good guide. the obviously the best trades are going to pull back deep into this green area, but like I say, it's not always going to happen. In theory, this low here, if we consider the swing before this, so this is the swing I'm kind of focusing on. If we go to the swing before that, so it's this one, right? The theory is that no, sorry, no, just ignore that last 15 seconds. We're kind of focusing on this leg, sorry, because we think that's the new high, because obviously price comes and takes out this low. But if we focus on this low for a minute, this swing, sorry, this leg, what this is coming back for, so price up here comes back for, in theory, is something in the previous leg. So now it looks like obviously it's played out. I'm going to say it's played out, but it might not. Something in here, in theory, an order went in something in all this, if this is a high, that basically said the market is going to take this low here. So something happens in here. If we I'll bar replay it to see if we can make it a bit more clearer. Okay. If we're looking at price here, something in here has got been an order has been placed that says we're gonna turn bearish and take the low. So it'll be institutions, banks, whatever, whoever, it don't matter. It's just the theory is it's something in all this. An order went in that says, yeah, we're going to take the low, change direction, and then it goes and does it, obviously. I'll play some candles, drink me coffee. There. So we're taking the low. Now the objective is it's going to tap into something, and then it looks like this. If not, something slightly to the left. It's kind of irrelevant. But what I'm trying to show you, price now wants to come back and mitigate the area that caught where the order went in to say that this low is going to be taken. Okay, so it told us it was going lower, changing around here at this point here. Job is now is can we get a trade from somewhere around this area? Okay, I'm just going to delete this zone. Say it don't quite reach the full 75 top 25%. Okay, so what we can do with it's done. It's obviously it comes mitigate something up here. Now, if we focus on this leg here, the leg before, it's the same process. So the leg before the current live range, yeah. So we could look at the structure leading up to it. So we could say this is a high here. Now this is messy. It's very messy. So I'm going to draw from here. I'm going to turn off the magnet so I'm not get this here. Now this is what I would consider my 15. And it is not the best. I'm going to say that one there, pull back. And then I'm going to go to the high. Okay. Now this could be wrong, but because it could be that high is a pullback, could be this high here is a pullback because it does technically pull back. The pullback's just not the biggest, so I'd kind of be, and then from the high, if that's the low we're looking to be taken, it happens here. Then we put in a low, put in a high, put in a low, put in a high, put in a low. Right, so that's probably my 15-minute structure. Now, same thought process, something in here, from that high to the point that this low's taken. Turn it orange. Something above that orange line in all this price action is basically what price needs to come mitigate. Obviously, it's just on a lower time frame. So every time a major external low structure low or high is taken, it generally comes back. The theory is it comes back to mitigate something that's started the move basically. So obviously, and what kind of tells us is imbalance and or liquidity. Because generally all we use. Now we get a decent push away from somewhere in around here, so it'd be a good idea to test, to check. Obviously, you see this push here, you've got in and around this area maybe. It literally looks like the move comes from up around here, directly cause of this low being taken. So Obviously, it needs checking, but it might still come higher yet. We don't know. But if that is the case, it is. So get back to it. Coffee. So if price then, sorry, 4 out end bearish there. Obviously, on the way up to this area here that we spoke about earlier, price is so top 25% ish, somewhere, well, just shy, but somewhere around there. Right at the point of interest. So we're kind of leading to a 4.15.1 here. If this is the right move, I don't know, obviously. Check it when I'm kind of done. If that's where the 15-minute turns bearish at that point, because obviously it's bullish here, and then we turn bearish at this point here. Yeah. So let me go and add 15-minute bearish at that point to my list. Well, dim it down, turn that orange. Yeah. So purple up. What's it doing? Blue down, blue there, purple up, blue down, daily. Red down at the minute, bearish. Said bearish instead of down. Get the terminology. And then I'll get back into the nitty-gritty stuff. So and then obviously once price has technically come out of the 15, it's come and mitigated it if that is the move. So if we look at this leg here, so this is the low that puts in a high here. This is a low. Let me do the leg before, sorry. So put in a low. I'll I'll do the last couple of swings actually on that. So low, pull back, no highs taken, obviously. Put in a low, pull back, put in the overall low. Now we don't notice the overall low until price takes this high here. So it pulls back. That's a change of character on the lower time frame, my 1 minute. Pull back. Again, we don't take low and then we retake the high. And then obviously this high and this low are the live one at that point until we get this. So at that point there, let me just change that darker. Turn the orange one dark as well so you can see that better. In case you can't. Okay. So once price taps into here, what we would then be saying is that the 1 minute at that point there, I'll draw me break structure line. That one there. 1 minute breaks changes at that point there. That for me, I don't know if I was watching this or not. This is just obviously it was a blank chart. This coming back up here, obviously the 15-minute being in alignment, the 4 hour daily all being in alignment. Would all this is kind of telling me that we probably making a new daily low to the blue structure, probable new lows coming in. And we're at the very top of all the other structures to suggest that it's going to be it could have been or should have been a massive move. But as soon as that 1 minute changed after the 15 and the 4 hour, which means that this is possible here, is the major move. Now, obviously, I don't know what that's tapped into. I'm not. It's not about that. It's just purely structure. Obviously, as soon as this high took that low, as soon as price action from that high took that low, that was a signal. It's tapped in something in here, which would then suggest that this is the now that all the time frames have aligned as to bearish, other than the biggest one, um, then that's possibly a major move on the way to a new overall low to do this blue line here. So that maybe just suggests that although this is pulled back into the bottom 25% of this whole purple leg, it might not have done its job of what it wanted to. Yeah. So now we're on the weekly, so the imbalance doesn't really mean much on this, but it hasn't quite filled whatever it's looks like on this time frame. Obviously, you can always go in and check and make sure you're happy that it's done something meaningful. Looks like nothing on the 5 minute. It just looks like a complete utter mess. So there's something going on maybe in here. So maybe it's going to at least come down to here. Yeah. Why there? Huge 5 minute candle. Now, that's possibly imbalance of some sort. I'm not going to go and check on the 10-second and do it for you because it's your job to check. But as just as a guide, I'd say it's at least coming down to fill that. So that would mean a new low on the time frame we was looking at. Yeah. Now, if that was the move from up there, even with a big stop loss of what it was, you, no way I'd been that in the 30s. I could probably get that down to a 4 or 5 if I zoomed in. But I mean, I'm not going to, it's not what it's about. But anticipating now is something like that, 2,000 odd pips. Now, obviously, whether you hold that is a different story, but structure wise, it's telling me, it's told a story in here. Yeah. Blue's bearish, the red's turned bearish, the orange has turned bearish, the green's turned bearish. This is, I mean, this is current price, so this was a couple of weeks back now when that possibly was, but yeah, it told a story, and it's telling me that this it's coming below this current low here. Now, obviously, I might have got something slightly wrong in one of the structures. It might be wrong, but all we can do is obviously make our rules to based around what we see in test, and I would say that's the most probable outcome at the minute. And then what I would kind of anticipate is what we've just discussed all in this area. So the 4 hour 15, 1 minute all turning bearish. If it does come down here, like if it does follow the structure, it will kind of do all the same around this area here as well. Obviously, I think it's coming to at least it's going to fill the yellow. It might come lower still, but literally what it does in what we've just discussed in that area, it will kind of hopefully do it in this area. And if it does, that means that the purple structure, if it does it before taking the low, then that will mean that the purple structure will be the next anticipated structure swing will be something like that. And it will be the purple structure. Let's take blue. Purple, yeah. So obviously the blues makes up the purple. Yeah. So the red makes up the blue. Orange makes up the red makes up the blue. Orange makes up the red. Green makes up the orange. And we work your way through. Yeah. Thanks for watching.